Hello friends, and welcome back to Hair and Now. In my last video dispelling common hairwork myths, I proved that, contrary to popular belief, photography did not kill sentimental hair art. So, what did kill this hairy tradition, you may ask? Well, today it's time to spill the tea on the true culprit. Well, to be fair, hairwork did not fall out of fashion for one event alone. Rather, it was a perfect amalgamation of events and cultural shifts all happening at the same time that caused the practice to fizzle out. And today we're going to focus on one event in particular that had a tremendous impact on sentimental culture. And this is an event that you're definitely already familiar with. World War I. World War I began in July of 1914 and ended in November of 1918. So that means that we just got done celebrating the 100th anniversary of the end of the Great War. I'm lucky enough to live in Kansas City, where we have the U.S. National World War I Museum and Memorial, and in honor of the centennial, they lit up the entire monument in poppies. It was a tremendously touching ceremony, and if you ever get a chance to visit the museum, I highly recommend it. But I digress. A total of 36 countries were involved, and although it's impossible to tell the exact number of deaths that were a direct result of the war, there were an estimated 9 million soldier and 5 million civilian fatalities. So for the time in the early 1900s, it was certainly the bloodiest battle within recent human memory. You would think that with the level of violence and large number of deaths that mourning culture and memorial keepsakes like hair jewelry would flourish, right? Wrong. There's no time for elaborate mourning rituals here. This is total war, and total war means we mobilize all of our country's resources, both on the front lines and at the home front. If you're a young, able-bodied man, you're going, as the Yanks said,
over there, send the word, over there.
Fun fact, when I was a child, I started singing that song right in the middle of a hospital while my mother was being wheeled off to surgery, because I am extra, and the Golden Girls is life. That meant that women were no longer staying in the home during the day as often as they were during the Victorian era, so naturally this meant that they didn't have as much free time to practice meticulous ladies' crafts such as hairwork. If the women were not doing their own hairwork at home anymore, you would think that they could still commission a piece from a professional hairworker. But alas, no. Even commissioned hairwork was beginning to dwindle by this point. You see, during wartime, resources were scarce, and although women were entering the workforce in droves, they were not getting paid as much as the men who left those same positions, and all citizens left at home were called on to save and donate their resources to the war effort wherever possible. Now, you may be familiar with the iconic recruitment poster of Uncle Sam urging you to join the U.S. Army. But the women at home were also bombarded with their own targeted propaganda. These ads encouraged women to spend their money on war bonds and to spend all of their free time doing practical crafts like knitting supplies for the troops. As the war began to come to a close, hair was just no longer being seen as the sentimental treasure on the large scale that it once was. Since citizens were expected and pressured to sacrifice all they could in the name of patriotism, everyone began to look for the practical value in everything they had, and this includes hair. One of my favorite propaganda posters. Wait, no. That sounds wrong. One of the most telling... One of the most unique? Forget it. One of my favorite propaganda posters was from Germany, depicting a woman holding her long, luxurious locks and encouraging women to donate their hair to the war effort. You could just drop it off at one of the designated collection centers. Could you imagine a government today saying, "Hey, everyone, bring me your hair," like some hair-obsessed creep or me? Courtney Lane, your friendly neighborhood hair artist. Okay, true story. Earlier this year, I was in a New York subway station and some smooth-talking Irish man comes up and starts talking a million miles an hour, and he's kind of talking in circles and clearly trying to sell me something. But right as I was starting to completely zone out, he ended his spiel with, "And all I need from you is a lock of your hair." To which I emphatically replied, "No, you give me a lock of your hair." And then he just stared at me, silent and clearly flabbergasted, so I produced a hair flower from my purse and promised him that I would put it to good use. So I guess the moral of the story is that although silly subway people might ask you for your hair in this day and age, a world power government isn't likely to do that anymore. But back in World War I, sometimes they did, because hair, after all, is a fiber, and there are plenty of practical uses for it if you're desperate for alternative resources. And that is why World War I killed hair art. But it was not World War I alone. As I stated at the top of this video, it was an assortment of things. So if you'd like to hear more historical reasons why hairwork fell out of fashion, please ring the bell, because next time we're tackling a much more surprising culprit and you will not want to miss it. I want you to subscribe. Thank you for liking, commenting, and subscribing. And a special thank you to my supporters on Patreon. If you have a question that you'd like to hear answered in an upcoming video, make sure to leave it down below. Until next time. This isn't even a military helmet. It's just for marching band. Oh well.